What's going on, guys? Very exciting moment here for the channel. SHOT Show 2024, brought to you by A3 Tactical. A3 Tactical builds the highest quality, most unique products and offers them at a great price to the consumer. Don't forget to check out A3 Tactical. We are here at the B&T booth with none other than Tom Bostic himself, talking about the MP7 or the T7. So, Tom, thank you for giving me this opportunity to get a little interview with you. Appreciate it. So, yeah, everybody wants to know where we're at and just some particulars, just to talk about the build and kind of the challenges that you've seen and and all that. So, yeah, where do you want to start?
Well, here it is. So this is our T7 pistol. Pretty much a clone, obviously, of the MP7. We did some changes on it, kind of brought it up to date a little bit. One of the challenges, keeping everybody happy, keeping ATF happy, is I wanted to make sure that this was designed as a pistol, so everybody knows it's just a pistol to start. And having that cool bearing on here for the flip grip would be an issue, because then it's, obviously designed to have something else on it. Also, one of the things that I've kind of learned with working on the G36 and the UMP for so many years is these little threaded bungs that are on the guns, like on the UMP and the G36 handguard, they break. People put stuff on them, they break, they drop, they cross-thread them, they Loctite them and try to get them back out, and then they strip the gun. And the problem is, like with this, it would have had a threaded bung here and here, and if you destroy that, that's the receiver, that's the whole gun. It's not like a handguard that you can just swap out and give somebody a new handguard. I mean, that's the gun, so that's a disaster. So one of the things I thought, obviously, M-LOK brings a lot to the table, and it really made sense to kind of update the platform. It is 20 plus years old, so including M-LOK on there allowed us to do quite a few things. One, molding it's a little easier. Two, people not breaking stuff is good, so you don't have people coming back with parts that they've jammed up. And then we make a M-LOK bearing that goes in here for the flip grip, and we make the whole flip grip all injection molded with this. So that way, if you do SBR or AOW, you can just pop your grip on there. It folds in and looks, identical to the real deal when it's in place. So that's one of the big features we did that's, kind of stands it apart from the original one. Of course, the internals are just a completely different, I say completely, it's redesigned to be semi-auto only. So it is a different bolt carrier setup. The tray, as we call it, there's a tray that holds the fire control, so it's a little different than other platforms. And so that is, there's a full auto tray, a semi-auto tray. We designed our own semi-auto tray. It only fits the semi-auto tray. It doesn't obviously accommodate the parts for full auto. Along with the carrier's different, the selector's different. So there are many. We blocked it more ways than we needed to, just to make sure that we didn't have any drama. And also wanted to make sure that the design was changed enough that it was kind of our own to some degree. And this is pretty much it. I mean, we've been kind of playing with it for a few years, on and off. And this is kind of close to the finished product. I mean, this is a pre-production one. They're going to look pretty much like this. The markings will be slightly different. They'll all be pad printed when we're done. But the basics are here. So.
Okay. So, and talking about the changes you made, so aside from things like stocks and all of that, so there's really no interchangeability to any other actual HK MP7 parts?
Yeah, so I mean the MP7, if anybody follows it, it's just not available. It's not something that dealers are getting as samples. HK doesn't do that anymore, and it's obviously a super iconic gun in video games, movies, etc. Something that nobody's ever been able to really kind of get close to. And HK covets this thing. I mean, they don't get you parts. Even if you're an LE agency and you have a broken part, they need a serial number to get you that broken part repaired. If you're a dealer that's gotten one secondhand from an agency, good luck, you're not getting any parts. So finding, actual MP7 parts has just never been a thing. In the last 2 years, the first parts kits ever have come to market. They just never really been a thing. And even those, parts kits are getting $20,000. For a used beat up set of parts, you're getting 20 grand out of that, and that's what the market is. Highly inflated, but I don't make any of that up. That's where it's at. So there really are no German parts to get, is my point. Mags have been out there in very small quantities. there has always been a pile of just the collapsible stock portion laying around. Whether those were actually bought directly here or imported or whatever remains to be seen. And then there's a few things like every once in a while you'll see an extractor pop up, or maybe gas piston rings. You could never buy say a bolt carrier or a bolt head. I mean, we would get, as soon as people heard that we were doing this, I was getting LE agencies saying, hey, we got bad bolt heads. Can you call, can we buy bolt heads from you? Hey, I got a cracked bolt carrier. Can we get it from you? Because HK won't sell it to us. And so, it is an interesting deal, because most people don't know anything about the MP7. Most people never heard, never held one. And so you don't realize how coveted the parts are and how hard it is to find stuff for them. So
that being said, with all of the stuff that you've made now, you will have replacement. I would imagine you have
I mean, we're making extra parts for the stuff that goes bad. Certainly, not goes bad, but gets worn, needs to be replaced. Like for instance, like our bolt heads. Battlefield Vegas, right here in Vegas, they have I think 5 or 6 rental MP5s they've had on their rental line for 6 or 7 years. They all need parts. Well, we've been giving them our bolt heads and other parts to test for the last year. So they've been running all of our, parts, which is great for us because it R&Ds to make sure that, these things are taking the abuse of people renting and just doing mag dumps all day. So it's been really helpful for us to do that with them, and they're a great shop over there. Known them for years, but they also do a ton of our, TG36 and TMP stuff. But yeah, I mean, we will have some spare parts and that kind of thing as it goes, bolt heads and extractors, ejectors, the wearable stuff. Right. Not a whole lot else really goes bad. I wouldn't imagine in the semi-auto world we're going to see like broken carriers and that kind of thing. But, as a rental gun, I mean, the gun might have 300,000 rounds on a bolt carrier. Yeah, it's going to die at some point. You don't really hear about it, but parts break, man. Even on the German stuff, I mean, they break. Not everything is perfect. Not everything can last forever. So. But one of the challenges certainly is we had to make every single part. We were lucky enough to find a handful of German gas blocks. So we did import those. They were somehow surplus and on the market with nobody that needed them other than us. So we got a decent deal on them. And the cost was less than us making them for at least this first run. So all of these will have German gas blocks on them. And we do have German stocks and we do have German mags. Everything else is our parts. We have a few different vendors we work with that are making some of the parts for us on here. And this is a project that we've done ourselves. We're not it's not related to GSG9. They do a lot of parts for us on the TMP and the TG36, but they are buried doing their own stuff. And this is kind of our own project with our own vendors. And we did our own injection mold tooling for all, for the receiver, the cap, the mag release, all the pieces, parts, so, and we're pretty close. I mean, we have pre-production receivers piled up. We should be in real production on receivers in about 2 weeks-ish. We'll be running samples of the RAL 8000 parts probably in that period of time as well. So I'll be able to have some cool pictures of those parts up, which I'm excited about. And of course, with this clone stuff, if you will, everybody wants it to look obviously as close to the real thing, as you can. And one of the big things was for everybody was this cool thing right here. The B&T suppressor. They've always made the factory cans for, as far as I know, for all the HK stuff. The UMP, of course, the old Rotex on the G36. And so, this is no different. I mean, this is the iconic can for this iconic platform. So it is a perfect, match for us to be able to, to still utilize the same, same suppressor. So we did the same sort of, flash hider QD setup that works, of course, with those. I'm sure, people will do what they do, but obviously this is the choice that most people are going to want is the, the B&T suppressor. So. This is the new version with the new QD mount. And this is kind of the older mount that you would see. This one's obviously newer, lighter, probably a little bit easier to use. I do have one of these as an old post-sample can, which is it's a little more bulky. I mean, it's cool because it has the iconic look, but certainly, again, I'm sure I can't speak for B&T, but I would assume this design for this piece was probably out 20 plus years ago when the actual platform was created. And tech has changed a bit since then, and people come up with better ways to make stuff and that kind of thing. So that's probably where we are.
What's great about B&T, and again, thanks to B&T for letting us use the booth and having this stuff on display, is they're making cans. And a lot of people watching this know that they brought out new MP7 cans in long and short configurations.
Yep.
For this project. I mean, it's like this project has got that much attention where B&T has the ability to make these things and sort of fill that niche or that market for people who would have never been able to find a can like this before, and they're doing it, and they have the ability to do that and make changes and kind of do what the customer wants. So I think that's great that B&T is willing and able to do that for the community. So thanks to B&T for that.
Yeah, absolutely. It is again, the closer you can get to having it, what people want, what they saw in that video game, or what they again saw in the movie, or whatever it may be, the more excitement there is around the product. I mean, obviously, this year at SHOT Show happens to be the year that everybody's showing some sort of MP7 like chassis or 5.7 version or whatever, and those are different products.
Sure.
I mean, they're fine.
Sure.
I'm sure they'll do well. Some of them, I can't believe nobody's made a chassis in the last 10 years. I'm like, holy cow, it's like such an easy thing to do, and there's like a gazillion handguns to use it on. And I'm like, why has everybody waited until this year when I come out with this to do it? But again, whatever, it is what it is.
So what's funny is I've been telling, at least just today, I've been telling people, it's like, it just seems kind of weird that all of a sudden now everybody's kind of bringing that, just what you said, this stuff to market.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is what it is. People have their own development times and everything, but it just is kind of funny that this is the year that this is
it is bizarre to me. But like I say, we've been dabbling in this. Look, I'm a small company. We have basically 3 employees ish, and it's just me, my wife, and my uncle. My son-in-law kind of works for us, part time. And we, I have good vendors that build me good parts. I assemble stuff, and I just kind of did it as, you couldn't buy it, and I wanted it, and I figured out a way to do it. And I didn't plan on jumping into the gun world and cloning everything HK made by any stretch of the imagination. But as you know, back from the HK Pro days, I mean, I created the rear section G36 SL8 conversion because nobody made one, and that was the closest thing you could get. And then after 10 years of that kind of ended up being, I had an opportunity to work with another company to build a US made G36, and so. And that went into the UMP, and then everybody of course looked at me like, Tom, you got to do the MP7, you got to do the MP7. Yeah. I'm like, I kind of feel like I don't want to just clone everything HK makes. It's not what I set out to do, but at the end of the day, they're, for a lot of different reasons, their hands are tied or don't want to, or whatever, whatever the excuse is this week, it's not here. Maybe they'll do it in years, maybe they'll do it tomorrow, who knows, maybe they'll surprise us one day and have it. I got no idea, but they have always been very supportive, and they know I'm doing it, and so they're all fans and say, do it. And I appreciate that. If anything, I mean, obviously, if HK came out with one, people are going to buy the HK because it's HK. So it'll have its own place, and this would have its own place. But it is interesting that none of these other companies, and I guess maybe for the reason of don't want to copy somebody else's deal, but there's so many small companies out there, so many people that would. That this would be just such a huge deal for them, and they haven't done it. I'm shocked, but
I think, like you said, you didn't set out to do this, but you're known now. I mean, for like these HK replica clone guns. Even like the XM8 kits are a big hit. You don't stock them as often, but like that's a great addition to.
Those were. I mean, I'd love to bring that gun to the table for real. But this stuff is all very niche, and it's all very expensive to do when this is all you do, and it's I'm just a small company doing it. So, if a B&T did this, I mean, they'd have had it to market a couple of years ago. But there's a lot of like I said, a lot of other companies that it would make sense to do something similar. Everybody's got their own version of what they want to get out there, but we've brought some neat stuff to life that otherwise. Would never have existed, to market for the people who want that sort of thing. So,
So let's talk about quick. I know. Let's go through some of the challenges you've had. I know we talked a little bit off camera about why there were some delays and some of the ejection molding and different things. I mean, because this has been.
It's been a little bit. It's been a little bit.
Pushed back for different, and nobody really knows why. It's just been delayed. So
it hasn't. it's kind of more been like my vendors give me a time, like, hey, can you make this part? Can you make this part? Yes, I'll have it done at this date. And you might not be able to, if you don't have this part, you can't test this part, right? So if this guy's like 2 months late, then you can't get this part going, and so, or you'll get it and say, hey man, these are, 50 of these work, but like the dimensions are off on the rest of them, so, and it's just manufacturing. It's not, that's just how manufacturing is. I mean, nothing is absolutely perfect all the time. And especially when you get injection molding, you don't know where the plastic is going to go and where you're going to have areas that are thin or short shot or expand or contract until you get it out of the mold. I mean, you can, there's programs for it, but until you get something out of the mold and you got hands on it and see what the cooling is, and so much, there's so many variables there. The temperature, the humidity. If they're like our G36 receivers, and when we run them in the summertime compared to when we run them in the wintertime, they have to change the formula a little bit because of the way the shop is. So it's there are things like that people have no idea, but it's just things you have to do. And so with this, with the injection mold, it's just dialing it in to making sure that everything is where it needs to be and stays where it needs to be during the cooling cycle. And then trying to figure out how to get cycle times up so you're not running one receiver an hour, because obviously that's that's not going to make anybody any money. So you have to kind of get those things dialed in. So it's not just like design the mold, build the mold, and start printing parts and start printing money. It just that doesn't work that way. So the mold changes and the mold just dialing stuff in has taken a solid 7 or 8 months, whereas they were very confident. Oh, we can have it done in 2-3 months, we'll get it. But they also have other things that have to go in the same mold machine. This has to fit in their largest mold machine, and they only have one giant one, and this has to fit in the giant one. So it's like, oh, well, we got to run this for 3 weeks, so now we're not getting a chance to put it back in the machine for 3 weeks. So it's like, yes, we've made the change yesterday, but it's 3 weeks till we can test the change. And then when you test that change, and then it's like, still need to tweak it a little bit more because you don't want to go all in. You got to do a little bit at a time, otherwise your mold changes are expensive. Anyways, it has been a long process, and normally that's stuff that's not out in the open for everybody to see. Most manufacturers drop their product and that's the end of it. They're not going to tell you all the ins and outs of how long something took to develop and who worked on it and how many people, whatever. With me, everything is so out in the open because, I probably get, now I'm getting, I don't even know how many emails a day, but even normally I would get probably 30 to 40 people a day asking about this project and where it's at. Every single day. And when you get up and I'm out in the shop at 6:15 and I got to answer an hour and a half's worth of emails just before I can put my hands on an actual gun and get working. Right, sure. And I'm the only one who can answer all those questions. So right. it becomes a lot, and there's a lot of questions I just don't have the answers to yet. So people are like, oh, when's it out? And I'm like, I don't know, because if this part is due on time and it works, then we're good. If it's not, and then I got to change this and this, then it's gonna be this time. So it is, most people aren't going to be that transparent and tell you all that kind of stuff.
I know the community itself is going to be very thankful that you're giving some of that insight, because even though they can't wait and love this idea of having this in their collection, people, will like, man, what's going on? Why don't we have any answers? Like,
right.
Tom's not saying anything. But so I appreciate you, filling in some of those blanks for us. And while we're talking about that, I want to ask about one of the other things I think a lot of people have asked on in the forums and probably asked you in emails and things, the whole backplate situation with stock. So is there a specific reason why you were not doing additional backplates, or is that a regulation thing?
I picked 500 as a good number because, again, we ran, a handful of like G36s. We ran, 125 the first time. Same thing with our TMP, and that worked out, and we pretty much kept that thing going. With this, I knew the demand would be higher, and I was like, well, if we're going to do it, the price break. If you're like, this is a little different. You got to have, say, I don't know how many springs are in this gun, like 20. If you got to have springs made, you don't just make 100 springs, right? You got to make 1,000 or more at a time. Most of the time, people won't even make a spring for you unless it's 5,000 springs. Okay. So things like that, you got to go all in and make. So if you're going all in and you're making, that many, you may as well keep going. And so like we rent, like springs. We have thousands and thousands of all the springs in this gun. Pins, screws, things like that. I have tons of that stuff. But when you get into like bolt carriers, stuff like that takes a lot of time and effort and and machining and heat treating and on and on and on. We went with a solid number of 500. We probably ran about 575-ish. So we have some spare parts, and not all of them is the exact same number. And so I figured 500 would be a good number. And so we actually found 500 exactly German stocks overseas with our 500 gas blocks. And so we had those imported, and I was like, look, I'm just doing 500 backplates, calling it done. And we left this specifically as a pistol, like I said, because the ATF decides what the ATF wants, and whether or not you decide to fight with them is on you. But it's designed as a pistol. It doesn't accept anything in the rear of the gun on purpose. Now it's probably overkill. That's how they approved it. I'm not going to argue with them. And the last thing I need is for them to come back later and say, because all the pistol brace thing going, and then the new rule garbage, and they're like, hey, we're going to define it. If it weighs X amount, it's not going to be considered a pistol now, or whatever it may be. So there's a lot of garbage in the background that a lot of people don't understand. That they can just come and shut it down and say, well, no, we think that was originally designed to be an SBR or a rifle, and because you have that on there and it can accept the stock, we can't accept it as being a pistol. So those were all sold illegally as unregistered SBRs, and kicking people's doors and shoot their dogs. So so it's like I just want to overdo making it so that I can't have them come back and cry about it later. And maybe I'm overkill, but I would rather do overkill than not, because attorneys are expensive. So that's what we did. That's why the number is 500. The back plates we did were insanely expensive to make. I would never make them that way again. The real one is it's an injection mold over an incredibly ridiculously done stamping that's like got about 10 stages to it, and all these jogs and all this crap in it. And trying to get somebody to stamp that was like a $35,000 tool just for the stamping part of that stupid little metal insert that goes in the back. And then you still have to pay for an injection mold on top of that. Then you got to do the springs, the pins, and then you have to machine both latches. So you're talking about a part that is costing you a gazillion dollars to start with. So that is why we billeted the thing in two halves and bolted it together. Still paid a ridiculous amount of money, but I didn't pay for the tooling and it got done faster. I will do it the other way at some point, but again, until we kind of know where the pistol brace thing is going to land, and we know where this is going to go, and if it's a hit and people want it, then I'll go there.
So just so we're all clear, so buying this as a pistol
comes with this back plate.
That does not accept the stock.
Does not accept the stock. Okay. We do have the stocks, and we do have the back plates in stock. And they're literally ready to go. I just haven't put them up for sale because I don't want them to all disappear. The grips we're making, the flip grips we've been selling, because they're just M-LOK. So people are putting them on everything, everything. So, I've had a few other companies, OEM, buy them from us that are, selling them as well. Again, it's just just an accessory. But yeah, the stocks, like I said, we got a certain number of those. And actually there's, oddly enough, there's a ton more stocks overseas that we can import. I don't know why, but there are. Okay. So I would probably not get into making my own stock for a while, just because the cost is way less to buy German ones than it is to manufacture, a new one. Obviously, if the brace thing goes away, we would then jump into doing something with the brace. But again, tooling up and spending money on something that, ATF can come back and cry about later. I'm too small of a company to be able to absorb that. So,
would it make sense to you if there was an abundance of more stocks to get imported? Would that give you the incentive to then make more backplates?
Oh yeah, we would absolutely make more. I mean, we're going to make more for the next run. I mean, absolutely, okay. We will have extra backplates, absolutely. But for this run, separately. Okay. Yeah, sure. We will definitely make some extra backplates for sure. But this was just kind of like, we made extra backplates, but not all of them, passed QC and would work. So I'm like, I don't want to get to the point where I have way more stocks and not enough backplates, and I'm going to assume that most people are going to SBR this thing and want to buy it. And so I know some people went ahead and bought the handful of stocks that were in the country. Yeah. I will say ours is a 2-position. Okay. Most of the ones that were here were the 3-position. I will say most people like the 2-position over the 3-position. Yeah. So in the stock is the least expensive part of the whole thing. Sure. So you'll be able to swap stocks back and forth anyway.
But at launch, so there's no extra backplates at launch. It's just the backplate.
Just going to be the backplate stock assembly. Yep.
Okay. So that answers that then.
So that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
We just need a bunch more of these for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the thing with cans, right? It's like hurry up and wait in a sense. Like you have, you get the can, you got it, but then you got to wait another 7-8 months for it to be approved. But again, like I said, it's great that B&T is willing and able to tool up to make these cans for the civilian market, not a government contract, not a military thing.
Yeah, no, it's awesome that we're able to do it. I mean, it makes the whole project for me anyway to be able to have all the right stuff. So we had a lot of questions on, well, I want the A2, well, I want the A1, well, I don't like the grip, well, I do like the grip, and so, and then, I'm like, well, they're going to want the stocks, they're going to want the grip, so you got to try to please everybody, because it's a niche market as it is, but you're trying to get the most out of everything, so that way you can keep everybody happy, and things have come together with, like I said, these being available, and the MLOC deal worked out, so we'd be able to offer, it both ways for your A1 guys and your A2 guys. And be able to have the stocks. So again, we're pretty close, man. I'm pretty excited to be able to get these out there. We'll see how it's received. Hopefully we have everything where it needs to be. If not, we keep it going. So
I think 2 last questions. One, just because you released your sign up for notifications on when it's going to be in stock for purchase. What does it come with? You buy the bits. Does it have backup sites? Like, what does it come with?
It basically is just this. It'll have the 2 rails, 2 MLOC rails on there, and a German mag,
30 round mag.
German 30 round mag, and that's it. HK has made a new MP7 sight that I've seen. The old MP7 sites are kind of old, antiquated, and huge. I see a lot of people take them off because they don't really co-witness with a lot of people's newer, optic options. So it's a huge expense to make all those pieces parts for the sights. That would be, essentially clone sights to begin with. So it would add, a bit of money to the price of the gun. And I figured if half the people are going to take them off anyway, or if I clone them and they come out with the new ones and then they want the new ones and not the old ones, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing sights. I know it's a little lame, but people put on whatever they want. Sure. And if they want to get the OG old school sights, HK Parts usually has them. There's a couple other sites. There's a company that sells a knockoff version of them. I just didn't want to get into supplying something and making the thing more expensive than it needed to be when I see a lot of people, aren't using them. When you see pictures of a lot of operators using them, like people in the field, they don't have those German sights on them a lot of times. They're using all kinds of other different, combinations for their particular setup. So, again, I'm sure we'll see a lot of different people putting different stuff on them. So it's just kind of one of those deals. But that's where it's at with that. I mean, at some point, we'll see what the market says, and if people decide they love those sites, and we can work that into another run or something a year down the road, we'll figure that out. But
and then the last thing is you did release the price finally officially, $34.99, correct?
That is it.
Is there going to be an upcharge for the RAL, like a special RAL pricing?
If it is, it won't be much. It did cost quite a bit more for that material, and just doing a color change for people that don't understand, it's expensive. They'd actually have to do. When you do a color change, you're getting neutral material and you're adding this additive in it that makes it the color. The machine has to be super, super, super clean because one speck is ruining your whole thing, if there's anything in it. They basically have to test the material once they've done the color to ensure that it has all the same properties that it had beforehand, that the color didn't cause any other issues. And that is a thing on some materials and some colors, which one would never have thought until you get into this and you learn that. But it was quite an expense, more to do the color right off the bat. So if anything, it might add like $50 a gun or something like that, but it wouldn't be anything nuts. And that we might even eat yet. I'm not 100% sure where I am. I did have all the color made, and so it's at the mold shop, waiting for us to run the next pile of small parts. We'll run first in the little mold, which will be charging handle and all the little pieces, the front cap, mag release, etc. So, and all the flip grip parts, all in that. So we'll be able to see that actual color and play with that, and then we'll run some test receivers. But for now, we do just have that sign up on the website. So people just go on there, sign up for the back in stock notification. We will make an actual SKU for the other one as well. And I'll have a landing page where you can sign up there. We are changing the website up a bit, which is why I didn't go and make a whole nother page, because the website's going to relaunch in about 2 weeks anyway with all new stuff. So I didn't want to make a page on this one and then change it all and do it again in 2 weeks. So there will be a lot more information on there, and a lot more pictures and a lot more explanation as we get a little bit closer as to when a pre-order date will be. And then, we're not just going to drop it, so people won't just be like, I was on a Friday, whatever. We'll give people plenty of notice. It'll be, a week, 2 weeks, whatever it'll be, and say it'll be whatever time and date, jump on. And again, we probably won't put all 500 on at once. We'll probably put on like 125, and then a couple weeks later, when we run through and get those done and get the next batch going, another 125. So it'll be pretty quick, but it won't be, all at the same time, because I don't like taking people's money until I am damn near ready to ship their product. If it's in the house and I'm putting it together and I'm shipping, I'm fine with that. But I don't, if parts aren't done, I'm not taking people's money. That's just how I've always done business. I know a lot of people crowdfund stuff, and I know a lot of big companies are like, if you're only serious if you're putting money on it. I get that too. But for me, I've always dealt with it that way, and that's kind of how I am. So
one last thing, I think, can you offer any of your customers any sort of, am I going to be left without? Like if somebody bought a can from you directly, does that give them a sense of assurance that I won't be stuck with a can?
Yeah, I mean, that's been asked a ton of times. And in the beginning, I told the first handful of guys, like, hey man, if you bought the can, look, I'll make sure you're not stuck with a can for a gun that you can't buy. So certainly you will have the opportunity to get it, and and that is the case. I would prefer everybody to go on the website and just purchase the gun as it comes out. It is a huge pain trying to stop what I'm doing to try to take a separate order off the website and change inventory around and that kind of thing, plus time out of the, we don't have the staff to do that all the time. So it is, I can't say it's a hassle. It's just tough to take that kind of time. So certainly anybody that has bought a can, they will certainly get an email directly from us saying, hey man, this is, they'll be available X, if you're ready on this run, great. Try and jump on there and get one. If you're not ready to spend that kind of money right this second, because I understand it's expensive, it is what it is. Maybe it needs 2 more months to save up or whatever, and they can catch one on the next run, whatever it may be. And we have sold quite a few of these. B&T's been great and been able to get us quite a few of these in our inventory pretty quickly, and they usually don't sit long on the website. We have had both of them in, the compact and the full size. Honestly, my vote's not in on either. They're both great cans. I mean, the compact certainly is cool because it's gives you that little bit shorter. Honestly, I am sure there's a number audibly what the difference is. I don't know. I can tell you they both sound really good. So I'm not against either. I mean, certainly some guys having the shorter one is probably a benefit. But anyways, we will keep that going as well. We did just get a pile of them in last week, and we have a bunch more on order. So they're constantly trickling in as they're building them, and I guess as we're in queue with whatever thing what everybody else that they're supporting is in queue with. So they'll keep coming.
Okay. Tom, I'm sure I forgot something, but I really appreciate you. You gave us a lot of information. I'm sure everybody watching, appreciates the time. I really appreciate the time taken here today. So yeah, man, we're all excited and hope to see it soon. And thanks for doing the Lord's work. You surely
appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Right, thanks.
And thanks again, B&T. Really appreciate you giving us the space and making these cool cans.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching.
Catch you later.
See you next time.